met you before, and I had a bit of a problem with a couple of your positions. However, as mixed
let me change it then. Let me change it.
As mixed as my thoughts are, and I'm not even going to ask you, as mixed as my thoughts are on some of your positions, and we could go on all night about them, I never have doubted the love that you have for this country, and I thank you for that.
Both parties talk about earmarks. What do we do about them? How do you stop them?
The entire process. You talk about the 10th Amendment, okay? When we talk about the unconstitutionality of some of the spending that's going on, well, Congress has an easy way to get about the Constitution, get around the Constitution. They offer the states money. They buy the states off. I have got to tell you, this politics is not a business. I live in a 400 square foot cabin. I bought it when I was in the Air Force for $150,000. There were two pieces of property in Putnam County that were under $150,000. I bought the one that had a toilet. The problem is it didn't work. And my dad and I and my mom, who can work any man under the table in this room, including my dad, redid that house. This politics is not a business. It is not a pursuit for an honest person. And the laws that they have passed again and again and again have been forced to keep blue-collar people out of politics. If you have to hire an accountant and an attorney at $500 an hour just to keep your campaign running, how do you expect a blue-collar guy or woman with a couple of kids to get involved in politics? So when the laws that are passed like McCain-Feingold, and you see the press up there all applauding, and these good government groups applauding, realize that, yes, the regulations are good, but there's a reason why Democrats or Republicans come together. Because whether it be the state capitol or whether it be the federal government, they're coming together not to promote good government and competition. They're coming together to promote and secure incumbency and incompetency. And on the issues of earmarks, I mean, look, democracy has been said to be the greatest, the worst form of government except for all others, right? Earmarks, in a sense, have become part of that process in shifting the money around and trying to balance interests. My opinion is this: whether it be earmarks or capital grants, the key is to make sure that you have transparency. Because if you have, democracy is not a spectator sport. The silent majority, as indicated in this room, has become awake. And when the silent majority becomes awake, politicians come before you and they start dancing like it's prom night. Look at me, look at me, no, look at me, look at me. Because they want to sing your tune because they know you're going to vote. And that's what's happened. So as long as we make sure that there's transparency in the process, when the American people are awakened, they can keep their elected officials absolutely. Now, would I like to eliminate earmarks? Yes. I would also like to have term limits in this state. I would like to have a balanced budget amendment. I'd like to have a taxpayer bill of rights. I'd like to have a property tax cap. I'd like to, a lot of things. But we have to do it.
You would see it ending, but you want to see it.
I would love to see. Exactly. I would love to see it end. I think even with the current climate, the best we're going to see is absolute transparency. Yeah.
Okay. I have a question. Maybe you're in the state. Apparently, a lot of the state municipal government workers that receive pensions in New York State are not taxed.
Right.
New York State tax.
And they go to Florida.
Wait a minute.
Right.
Now, that's outrageous. Why are they not being taxed? Everybody else that has a pension is being taxed. Now, Pennsylvania, they are not taxing any pensions. But in New York, they exempt all federal, state, government employees and municipal employees. Also, they don't pay their Medicare, or whatever it is. Now, why? I mean, you're in the state. This is if you collected taxes from everyone that has a pension in New York State, we would not have a problem. It's billions of dollars we're losing in taxes. These pensions are not what the common person gets. These pensions are $180,000 and higher, and I know that for a fact. Now you figure you're losing $3,500 to $4,000 per person, and then when they move, you're right.
Right.
Now, the thing is, what can be done? You know this is here. I've approached, I've written to everyone in the state. I spoke to Bloomberg, I've been on the air, and nobody wants to address it. Why?
Recently in the state legislature, they did just pass, and I'm no defender of the state legislature. I mean, you're looking at the guy who walks in there and knows that he's surrounded. I actually know George Bush talked about being a uniter. My first speech in the New York State Assembly, the first thing I did before I went there was read a book called How to Win Friends and Influence, blah, blah, blah. And I decided to get up and call it the nation's most dysfunctional legislature. And I united both the Democrats and Republicans who both said, resign, sit down, we hate you. And it was a very interesting experience, and that was 2 years ago. So I'm no defender of the legislature. They did just pass a piece of legislation that would actually have a Tier 5 component.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about pensions.
I'm talking about it as well. I want to talk about overall costs. You're asking me what can be done. Okay, so what I'm telling you is that in the current climate, I feel your pain. I'm hostile too.
I was teaching. I know it's your employment, so all these.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm talking about pensions. What makes a municipal, state, and government employee list all the benefits, every single benefit there is, not paying a tax on their pension when everyone else does?
Union.
And it should be stopped. Everyone should pay their fair share.
All of the excessive spending in New York State should be stopped. You have California, which is now coming to a state near you. The reality is that we have a failed social experiment that is being funded on the backs of taxpayers in districts like mine.
What can you do?
I represent one vote, and I can stand up and I can vote for those
bring this
results.
up. I never heard anyone bringing this up. I get no responses from every time I write or call or email. They ignore it. That
You want my cell
is not
phone?
an answer.
Do you want my
It
cell
is not
phone?
an answer.
Do you want my cell phone? How about we do this? How about we introduce a piece of legislation? What is your name? What are you Irene what?
Huffnagel.
Okay, so we're going to introduce the Huffnagel bill.
All right.
Okay, these questions are much too tough. I'm the hell out of here. I'll see you. And I'm against unfunded mandate.
I want to go back to the same question I asked this other potential representative of ours.
He's filed. He's put $100,000 in, right?
You've represented us for 2 years in Albany. What have you been involved in specifically to help alleviate the problem in the rural upstate counties where businesses have left and to bring business in there, i.e. maybe Herkimer, Montgomery, Chittenango County, places where our taxes are going?